The Sattler 5.
Welcome back, and talking sport with man about town and very knowledgeable sporting aficionado Ric Gloede. Good afternoon.
G'day, Tom. How you doing?
Very well. Big week in sport again. Dockers, of course. I did see one of the funniest things on Facebook for a long time the other day, where they were talking about the fact that Owen wasn't hungry anymore because Owen ate.
Yeah.
And such. They've absolutely slammed the Dockers.
I saw one where they had Ross Lyon breathing into a breathalyzer, and underneath it said, "Do you think you'll make 08?"
In the words of Kamal, why are people so unkind?
That's right. That's exactly right, mate. But they're doing all right. They're a side that's depleted, and I think that they're doing reasonably well, Tom. But
they are depleted, although the AFL has announced that they're going to take a bit of a look at the selection policies to make sure that Fremantle don't tank the rest of the season.
Well, I haven't seen any evidence of that. I mean, even on the weekend, they were up to the Hawthorn put the afterburners on in the three-quarters and that three-quarter time, and that was it, I think.
Oh, I suppose, not taking Pavlich when he wasn't injured and, those sorts of things. They're probably going to question those sorts of selection.
Well, I think their answer to that was we would have, even if we were winning, we would have rested him at some stage along the route because we want him to play out the whole season in case we get in the finals.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see. But you've got people like Barlow sort of out of the purple circle at the moment, so to speak.
Well, the commentators made an interesting observation of his game against who did East Perth play? No, he was in Peelside. They played South Fremantle. He had 34 touches, but they said that he had no depth in his kicking and no real pace. And I think that's what's been missing in their side is some real pace from their mids and they've had him in the midfield, but whether or not he can come back or not, he's been a great servant of the club, hasn't he? Yeah,
very much so. And you sort of think like 2 years ago he was hottest bloke in the competition, and now he can't get a game.
Well, it's made this week's game against Richmond very interesting because of the Richmond win against the Sydney Swans, hasn't it? Other than that, before that, you'd have thought, well, it's going to be a Dockers quite easy win, I think, but I still think they'll win that one.
Okay, so you're predicting they're going to finally break the duck?
Yes, but I haven't been very good with my tipping, Tom.
How about the Eagles? What did you make of them on the weekend?
I thought the Eagles were sensational in the first quarter.
Were they that good?
They never let the Saints into the game, and anyone who thinks the Goldstein or the Gorning, whatever his name is, from Melbourne, have more of an influence on a team than Natanui isn't watching football. Natanui was sensational, Tom.
They obviously were extraordinarily dominant, but was it a case of them being that good or St Kilda being that bad?
St Kilda were pretty bad, but I might say that the reason why they were bad is the main feature of the Eagles game, to my way of thinking, was their pressure and their hard tackling that spilt the ball all the time, and they made Larry do when they got it. Yeah,
very much so. So a massive win, and more than 100 points. That's always great, both confidence booster and percentage booster at this time of the year as well.
Yeah, two good things also. Kennedy got 5 in the first quarter, and first time they can remember anyone getting 5 in the first quarter and none in the rest.
Yep.
But Lacroix got his mojo back, and so did young Crisp. He was terrific. And the one little thing that's happened in the Eagles in the last couple of weeks that I think is going to shore them up a little bit when they go into state is the reintroduction of Wellingham. Mate, Wellingham's a good player. He understands our caper.
He's a real link player, isn't he?
He certainly is. And his skills he's just a very good one-on-one player. He's a good running player. He kicks over the line. He's a terrific player, I think.
The rest of the competition, it's interesting that North Melbourne's still undefeated, and yet no one's talking premiership. They seem to be still not taken seriously.
Well, they are dropping off in the last quarter a bit, and that's what, even though the Dockers end up on top of the ladder, that's where they ended up going last year. Towards the end of the year, they were winning games by a point or 2 points or a goal or something, you know. They weren't putting anyone away, North are putting them away and then letting them catch up, and that's a bad tenet to have at this stage.
Yeah, very much so. On a different front, not in terms of a team or a playing front as such, but really bad news about Jared Roughhead with the return of his melanoma and indefinitely out of the game and, well, who knows?
Well, that's right. The main reason he's going to be out of the game, he's not going to be able to be in the sun, mate. You know, it's all the treatment he'll get. I don't know about you. Right now, I'm suffering from a little cancer in my nose that I went to get cut out, and the plastic surgeon said, "No, son, put this cream on, and it'll go in 3 weeks." And he said, "The only thing is, you're going to look like people think you've been drinking plonk." And he was right. It went bright red. And the second thing is that you know, you just cannot go in the sun at all.
Yeah.
And that's why he won't be able to play. He won't be able to get in the sun.
So it's bad news, and I mean he really has stepped up as being one of their key players since the
power forward, isn't he?
Well, since the departure of Franklin, he's really taken that role, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I like the way that he goes up the ground and plays a ruckman's role from time to time. He's a great player, Roughhead. He's a very good. I think he's as skilled a player as anyone in the game.
Yeah. Other news and observations you've made in the footy circles first?
Well, going back to the Eagles, they've got to play Port this week, and it seems to me that's probably going to be a very good opportunity for them to win away, because they haven't got a ruckman. They've got young Trengrove in the ruck, and that's all they've got. They haven't got Lobb. They haven't got any of the others. They're either injured or suspended or not up to it. And I think that leaves the way open for that Eagles midfield to do a little bit of what they did last weekend against the Saints, myself.
Yeah, it's going to be I mean, you would expect them to win quite comfortably. I mean, Port are really hot and cold. They're sort of just in the middle field somewhere. You wouldn't expect them to be in the same competition.
Well, the other thing about other clubs, I think, Worspold's proved he's the ideal man at a critical moment to coach Essendon. I think he's done a wonderful job with a very depleted side.
It was quite amazing, the reaction, wasn't it, from their crowd on the weekend? A standing ovation when they got beaten because they came back from potentially being hammered to at least making a game of it.
And you might well say from Essendon, for that reaction, that they're a very unforgiving side because they like success, probably more than most clubs, including Collingwood.
Yep. So maybe they're accepting the situation they've got and appreciating the effort that everyone's putting in. You know, they're obviously not of the calibre to really take it up, but the fact they're making the effort, they're acknowledging that, which is wonderful.
They're obviously learning the game properly, and that's when they get the other boys back, they're certainly going to have some depth in their club, mate. That's a completely different attitude from their fans to what we saw up in Brisbane.
Yes,
where and both the Gold Coast Suns and the Brisbane crowds were abusing their players as they came off, including someone as great as Gary Ablett.
Yep,
you know, that's disgusting. I think you know, Ablett's coming back from a major injury, and he's been a sensational player for that club.
Well, I think many teams over the years have had their periods where their supporters have become frustrated and start to eat their own a little bit, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. What else, mate? Of course, we've forgotten one thing. The great Day has won another tournament.
Yes.
And he's just an amazing player. I don't know if you play golf, Tom, but his short game is just immaculate.
Very, very badly, Rick. Very badly.
Yeah, he joined the club. That's the difference between him and us.
Yes, he can play.
But there's also the difference between him and the rest of the world at the moment. If he gets into trouble or he comes up short of the green, his short game is just terrific. It's very, very good.
No, real champion. Obviously, he's going to be there for quite some time too. Still young.
He's only 27 years of age, I understand.
Yeah.
So 28, I think.
Yep.
And he's already number one player in the world. So, you know.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Other sports news that has captured your attention this week?
Well, there's lots of other things going on. Of course, the the Eels in rugby league have got themselves in as much trouble as Essendon in a lot of respects, and it's come from their administration and nothing to do with drugs, all to do with paying people too much money. Very interesting to see that Haynes, who's an Eels player, has decided he might try and get a game in the Fijian sevens side of the Rio Olympics. And having read that, and then this morning reading an article where the NRL board is looking into something like $500,000 that they think the Eels paid him outside of the club. And hidden it from them, You would think that given the amount of scandals with, Carlton and,
there's been a number of them in the last few years, you would think that a club would realise you just can't do that. You're going to get pinged.
Well, it's such a big business these days, mate. It's such a big business, I'll tell you something I went to today, which was very interesting, Tom. Mm-hmm. Being an ex-commissioner, I was invited onto the West Australian Football Commission alumni.
Oh, very good.
They had their first meeting. They had a breakfast this morning at Subiaco and were given a briefing on where things are at the moment with the casino, with the new stadium and with footy in general. And I think it was a very good meeting, and I think that the sort of people that have been ex-commissioners are going to give them a little bit of clout going into their dealings with government, etc. So I think it was a good move, and also it's something we should do to keep our football, our past going. We can't forget our past. The Victorians are very good at keeping theirs, but we're not very good at doing that, Tom.
Yeah, very true. Local footy.
Local footy, well, South and Subi seem to be the benchmarks.
Don't they?
But I think East Perth has really grown a leg in the last 3 weeks, but East Perth had something like 19 players they could have played in their side last week from the Eagles. So that tells you two things. The Eagles' whole team is probably fit, apart from one or two players. And secondly, it's going to be very, very difficult to beat them for most teams. The team that worries me most, I love them, is Perth. I'd love to see us do something. I really think the Waffle really needs to look at some form of equalisation where the teams that struggle with their districts and that sort of thing because of their demographic aren't getting the players coming through. And we ought to be doing something about making sure that they do get their share of good young talent.
Yeah.
And I say that because I know it's not because of putting good systems in place or having good people, because Perth has one of the better Waffle presidents and a terrific CEO. So, and they just can't get it right on field. They're getting it right off field. And there's probably Swans are probably a bit the same way. And I suppose one of the other interesting things is that the Swans, through their own persistence, got paid for Cowley the other day from the AFL.
Yes, interesting.
I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, what was it a decent number? I didn't see what the number was.
No, they weren't publishing that, but
okay.
I understand it's around the $10,000 mark, mate.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
better than nothing. And,
yes.
And if they hadn't have asked, they wouldn't have got.
Yeah, no, very true. Very true. No. So tips for the weekend. So you think the Dockers are going to get up over Richmond?
Well, I'm hoping they'll get up. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think Richmond always play pretty well here.
Yes.
But it should be. I mean, we played them last year or the year before when we were up the top, and we only beat them on the last kick of the day then. So. And
West Coast maybe a win on the road, which would be long overdue.
Which would keep it. I mean, they say with the West Coast are the flat track bullies and so on. What do they say back in Melbourne or Sydney when their teams come over here and the Eagles belt them? Are they flat track bullies?
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot of parochialism in it, isn't there?
Rather.
Somebody once said to me, Tom, that the best thing about footy is it's parochial. The strongest thing about footy is it's parochialism, and the weakest thing about footy is it's parochialism. So.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very true. Well, another big week and another big weekend of sport, no doubt, for you to catch up with as well, and we'll speak to you again very shortly.
Thank you, Tom.
Good on you. Ric Gloede, talking
now.
Sport, and as we do each week, and very, very well informed and right across many sports. And we'll have more very shortly on the Sattler Files.
This is the Sattler Files.